Whenever the name Cleopatra is mentioned in any part of the world today, everyone's mind immediately dwell on Cleopatra VII, and not any of the 6 Cleopatras that ruled before her. But what exactly made Cleopatra VII a unique and remarkable ruler that history has accorded a high place? While the world has seen quite a number of female rulers of kingdoms and dynasties, Cleopatra is arguably the most prominent empress to ever live. Cleopatra was well loved and respected by her subjects and was famed for using her beauty, intellect, and wit in gaining political advantage. Historians vary in their records of Cleopatra's personality. Among scholars and historians of Arabian descent, she's known more as a scholar than a lover and a fighter. Some historians claim that she was beautiful, while others claim that she was rather plain. But one fact that all historians agree on about Cleopatra was that she was abundantly rich. Well, in today's video, we separate facts from hearsays about the history of Cleopatra and detail everything there is to know about the greatest empress to ever rule ancient Egypt. We'll examine her birth, upbringing, rule, as well as the stupendous wealth she amassed during her reign. You definitely want to hang around for this one. Hey there, and welcome again to your favorite history channel, where we bring you mind-blowing stories about the most remarkable events, landmarks, establishments, and personalities in history. Make sure to like this video, hit the subscribe button, and smash that notification bell to receive notifications of when we post more fascinating videos like this one. We'd also love to hear your opinions and thoughts about Egypt's great empress in the comments. Ready? Let's dive in. Cleopatra VII, often simply called Cleopatra, was the last of a series of rulers called the Ptolemies, who ruled ancient Egypt for nearly 300 years. Cleopatra VII ruled ancient Egypt as co-regent for almost 3 decades. She was part of a dynasty of Macedonian rulers founded by Ptolemy, who served as general under Alexander the Great during his conquest of Egypt in 332 BC. Cleopatra ruled first with her father until his death, and then with her 2 younger brothers, and finally with her son. Cleopatra ruled an empire that included Egypt, Cyprus, part of modern-day Libya, and other territories in the Middle East. Born in 69 BCE, Cleopatra would go on to serve as the dominant ruler of ancient Egypt in all 3 of her co-regencies. Much of what is known about her life comes from the work of Greco-Roman scholars, particularly Plutarch. Cleopatra was the daughter of Ptolemy XII, a descendant of Ptolemy I Soter, one of Alexander the Great's generals and the founder of the Ptolemaic line in Egypt. Her mother was believed to be Cleopatra V Tryphena, the king's wife and possibly his half-sister. In 51 BC, her father died of apparently natural causes, and the Egyptian throne passed to 18-year-old Cleopatra and her 10-year-old brother Ptolemy XIII. Modern-day depictions of Cleopatra tend to depict her as a woman of great physical beauty and seductive skills, given her romantic involvements with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, which were largely strategic. This depiction has earned her a rather immortalized status in history and popular myth, as well as in art, music, and literature for centuries. However, a number of ancient records and historical research tell a different story. These records depict Cleopatra as an intelligent, multilingual female pharaoh who affirmed her right to rule Egypt and other territories. In 50 BCE, Cleopatra's throne was usurped by her brother Ptolemy XIII, and she was forced to flee from Egypt. She sought refuge in Syria, where she raised an army, and in 48 BCE returned to face her brother at Pelusium on Egypt's eastern border. Meanwhile, after allowing the Roman general Pompey to be murdered, Ptolemy XIII welcomed the arrival of Pompey's rival Julius Caesar to Alexandria. Cleopatra realized that she needed Roman support, or more specifically Caesar's support, if she was to regain her throne. In order to help her cause, Cleopatra sought Caesar's support by reportedly smuggling herself into the royal palace to plead her case with him, and in the end, each was determined to use the other. Caesar sought money for repayment of the debts incurred by Cleopatra's father, Auletes, as he struggled to retain his throne. Cleopatra was determined to keep her throne and sought to restore the glories of the first Ptolemies and recover as much as possible of their dominions, which had included southern Syria and Palestine. Caesar and Cleopatra became lovers and spent their winter besieged in Alexandria. After 4 months of war between Caesar's outnumbered forces and those of Ptolemy XIII, Roman reinforcements arrived the following spring. and Ptolemy XIII was defeated in the war that followed. He fled and drowned in the Nile, and Cleopatra was restored to her throne. Entering Alexandria as an unpopular conqueror, Caesar restored the throne to the equally unpopular Cleopatra and her younger brother Ptolemy XIV, who was only 13 years old at the time. Caesar remained in Egypt with Cleopatra for a time, and around 47 BC she gave birth to a son, Ptolemy Caesar. He was believed to be Caesar's child and was known by the Egyptian people as Caesarion, or Little Caesar. Sometime in March 44 BCE, Ptolemy XIV was killed soon after he returned from a trip to Rome, on which he had accompanied Cleopatra and her son on a visit to Caesar. The 3-year-old Caesarion was named co-regent with his mother and officially became Ptolemy XV. With her infant son as co-regent, Cleopatra's hold on power in Egypt was more secure than it had ever been. However, an unprecedented flooding of the Nile resulted in failing crops, leading to inflation and hunger. Around the same time, a conflict was raging in Rome between a second triumvirate of Caesar's allies, Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus, and his assassins, Brutus and Cassius. Both sides asked for Cleopatra's support, and after some stalling for a while, the pharaoh sent 4 Roman legions stationed in Egypt by Caesar to support the triumvirate. Soon after the enemies had been defeated, Mark Antony, now controller of Rome's eastern territories, summoned Cleopatra to the Sicilian city of Tarsus, now in modern-day Turkey, to explain the role she had played in the complicated aftermath of Caesar's assassination. According to the story recorded by Plutarch, she set out for Tarsusin in an elaborate ship loaded with gifts and deliberately delayed her departure to heighten Antony's expectation. She entered the city by sailing up the Cydnus River while dressed in the robes of Isis. Antony, who associated himself with the Greek deity Dionysus, was immediately captivated by her charms. He returned to Egypt with Cleopatra, forgetting his wife Fulvia, who in Rome was having a difficult time maintaining his interest in Caesar's heir apparent against the growing menace of young Octavian. He agreed to protect Egypt and Cleopatra's crown, and pledged his support towards the removal of Cleopatra's younger sister and rival Arsinoe, who was at that time already in exile. In March 40 BCE, Mark Antony returned to Rome, and shortly after his departure, Cleopatra gave birth to twins, Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene. Egypt grew more prosperous under Cleopatra's reign, and in 37 BC, Antony again met with Cleopatra to obtain funds for his long-delayed military campaign against the kingdom of Parthia. In exchange, he agreed to return much of Egypt's eastern empire, including Cyprus, Crete, Cyrenaica, Jericho, and large portions of Syria and Lebanon. They again became lovers, and Cleopatra gave birth to another son, Ptolemy Philadelphus, in 36 BC. Following a humiliating defeat in Parthia, Antony returned to Cleopatra in Egypt. In a public celebration in 34 BC, known as the Donations of Alexandria, Antony declared Caesarion as Caesar's son and rightful heir, as opposed to Octavian, who was Caesar's nephew and his adopted son. He also awarded land to each of his children with Cleopatra. These occurrences began a war of propaganda between Antony and the enraged Octavian, who claimed that Antony was entirely under Cleopatra's control and had abandoned Rome to found a new capital in Egypt. In late 32 BC, the Roman Senate stripped Antony of all his titles, and Octavian declared war on Cleopatra. On September 2nd, 31 BC, Octavian's forces soundly defeated those of Antony and Cleopatra in the Battle of Actium. Cleopatra's ships deserted the battle and fled to Egypt. On August 12, 30 BC, after meeting with the victorious Octavian, Cleopatra closed herself in her chamber with 2 of her female servants. The means of her death is uncertain, but historians have reported that she used a poisonous snake known as the asp, a symbol of divine royalty, to commit suicide at age 39. She was buried according to her wishes with Antony, leaving Octavian, who later took the title Emperor Augustus I, to celebrate his conquest of Egypt and his consolidation of power in Rome. The economy of Egypt during Cleopatra's reign was robust and efficient. This made Cleopatra fabulously wealthy even by today's standards, and one of the wealthiest monarchs the world has ever seen. She was wealthier than Caesar. The greatest of Egypt's industries, wheat, glass, papyrus, linen, oils, and unguents, essentially constituted royal monopolies. On these commodities, Cleopatra profited doubly, and into her coffers went approximately half of what Egypt produced. Her annual cash revenue was probably between 12,000 and 15,000 silver talents, which was an astronomical sum of money for any sovereign. Her net worth, by today's valuation, has been estimated to be as high as $96 billion. On a contemporary list of the wealthiest persons to ever live, Cleopatra appeared as the 22nd richest person to ever live in human history. However, Cleopatra wasn't able to afford her life of luxury in her own right. She borrowed heavily from foreign rulers to finance the many wars she waged during her reign.